yesterday, AG Jeff Sessions went before the House committee telling lawmakers he has never lied to them about the Trump campaign's contacts with Russia, amid new revelations that he in fact did have discussions with a foreign policy aide who wanted to set up a meeting between Trump and Russian leader Vladimir Putin. Now, he was challenged by New York Congressman Hakeem Jeffries on the need to clarify or correct previous testimony given under oath before Congress, reminding Sessions about his own words he gave when he was a senator supporting the impeachment of then President Bill Clinton.
And in it, you acknowledged that while serving as U.S. attorney, you once prosecuted a young police officer who lied in a deposition. And in that speech, you decided to prosecute that young police officer even though he corrected his testimony. Now, you testified under oath before the Senate Judiciary Committee in January. You subsequently corrected that testimony in a March 6 written submission and have been forced repeatedly to come back to the Senate and now the House to clarify. When explaining your vote on the Senate floor to remove Bill Clinton from office, you stated that you refused to hold a president accountable to a different standard than the young police officer who you prosecuted. Let me be clear. The Attorney General of the United States of America should not be held to a different standard than the young police officer whose life you ruined by prosecuting him for perjury.
Mr. Jeffries, nobody, not you or anyone else should be prosecuted, not me, or accused of perjury for answering the question the way I did in this hearing. I say that's not fair, Mr. Jeffries. I would say that's not fair, colleagues. That's not on any indication that I in any way participated in anything wrong.
Sessions was also peppered with questions about the Trump administration's lack of diversity, including the number of black judicial nominees to sit on the federal bench.
In terms of nominating judges to the bench, our information tells us that out of all the judges that have been nominated, I think 91% have been white males. Does that foster diversity?
I'm not aware of the numbers, but you should look for quality candidates, and I think diversity is a matter that has significance.
Well, the National Bar Association could recommend and has recommended a number of African American and other minority attorneys who are qualified. So let me just ask you, and if you don't know the answer to these, just let me know that you'll get me the information. But how many African Americans do you have on your senior staff?
I do not have a senior staff member at this time that's an African American.
Out of all, I
would note in Alabama, I participated in recommending an African American judge, and I've had judges before. And
we're talking about this administration, though. Of all of the U.S. attorneys that have been nominated or confirmed, how many have been African American?
One in Alabama that I've recommended that I knew.
And I believe he's
been confirmed.
I believe it's only that one. Out of all of the special agents in charge of FBI bureaus around the country, how many are African American?
I do not know.
Well, Congressman, when I leave here, I'm going to find me some Negroes I can appoint to my office, because clearly I did not do that before I came to this hearing. Now, Sessions was also asked about a controversial August FBI report about the black identity extremists, and this is what Beauregard had to say.
Shameful.
Would you consider Black Lives Matter a black identity extremist group?
I'm not able to comment on that. I have not so declared it.
So you should know that a lot of activists around the country are very concerned that we're getting ready to repeat a very sad chapter of our history, where people who are rightfully protesting what they consider to be an injustice in their community, which is their relationship with police officers, are now being targeted and labeled as extremists and are going through periods of surveillance and harassment. And so I would like to know, what is your department going to do to protect the rights of average citizens to protest if they have a concern about police officers?
This department will not unlawfully target people.
Also in the hearing, Congressman Cedric Richmond asked Beauregard about opioids versus the crack epidemic.
Your decision to reverse Eric Holder's Smart on Crime initiative goes back to the crack, tough on crime, and I think you specifically said that you want the U.S. attorneys to charge and pursue the most serious, readily provable offenses and sentences. But with opioids, we're treating it as a mental health crisis. And the question becomes, from the outside looking in, is it because of who the opioid crisis is affecting as opposed to crack? Our answer to crack cocaine was mandatory minimum sentences. So the question is, how does an outside observer reconcile how we treated crack, and which led to mass incarceration, which now with the epidemic we're losing thousands and thousands of people a year, and we're treating it with hugs and kisses and treatment as opposed to tough on crime, lock them up? How do I reconcile that and not conclude that the only difference is race and income?
Well, I would say that the federal court focuses on serious offenders, not users. We talk about international drug cartels. We talk about distribution networks, serious gangs, MS-13. We focus aggressively on that. The average federal sentence in the last 3 or 4 years has dropped 19%, and the federal prison population is down 14%.
Then, of course, Houston Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee had the audacity to question Beauregard about the issue of mass incarceration.
We have found that mandatory minimums and over-incarceration has been the history of criminal justice. We were moving toward criminal justice reform, which you opposed as the United States Senator, and now you intend to return toward discredited Nixon-era law and order criminal justice policies going to make America great or waste precious taxpayer dollars. Do you have any interest in rehabilitating those incarcerated, recognizing that mandatory minimums created the opportunity for over-incarceration rather than telling your prosecutors to prosecute on every single crime? Is there any opportunity to work with your office to deal with progressive ways of dealing with criminal justice reform at this time? Yes or no?
Yes.
Right?
I would just respond and say that Senator Durbin and I worked together to reduce the crack cocaine penalties some years ago. It probably remains the largest.
Will you pull back
single.
on
the time of the gentlewoman has expired.
Well, but then, of course, Congresswoman Karen Bass of California also had to ask Beauregard about the issue of Black Lives Matter.
Do you believe that there is a movement of African Americans that identify themselves as black identity extremists, and what does that movement do?
Well, it'd be interesting to see the conclusions of that report, but I'm aware that there are groups that do have an extraordinary commitment to their racial identity, and some have transformed themselves even into violent activists.
Are you aware of white organizations that do this as well? Certainly a group such as the Ku Klux Klan.
Yes, and then the skinhead movements, but there's a racial identity white movements that have been identified for sure.
So has the FBI done a report on white identity extremists that are likely motivated to target law enforcement officers? Is there such
I'm not
a
aware of that.
Okay. Are you aware of a group called the Sovereign Citizens?
I've heard that group, yes.
And I believe that the Sovereign Citizens is primarily a white organization that absolutely has targeted police officers and killed police officers. You're not aware of that?
I'm not aware of all their crimes, but I know they're a group that's known to have violent tendencies.
Could you name an African-American organization that have committed violent acts against police officers? Could you name one today? In this report, they name organizations from 30, 40 years ago, but can you name of one today that has targeted police officers in a violent manner?
I believe I could, but I would want to be to confirm that and submit it to you in writing.
Could somebody please go find Sheriff David Clark for me so he can answer questions of these black women? Because, Lord, she has got my butt burning sitting in this chair. Now, also, before they cut her mic, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee of Houston has something else to ask Beauregard, this time about the whole issue of black extremists.
Are you familiar with the names Eric Garner, Walter Scott, Tamir Rice? My question is, as I hold up the poster dealing with the report under your jurisdiction, Black Identity Extremists, it is interesting to me that you are opposing individuals who are opposing lethal force, similar to the attack on Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King on COINTELPRO, but there seems to be no report dealing with the Tiki Torch Parade in Charlottesville chanting, "Jews will not replace us." Why is there an attack on black activists versus any reports dealing with the alt-right and the white nationalists? Can you answer that question quickly?
I'm not aware.
Are you planning on investigating that?
When was that report completed?
In August of 2017.
I'm not aware of, I have not studied that report.
I ask you to because it's an attack on individuals who are simply trying to petition the government in the redress of grievances.
Lord, who done let all these black people on this committee in Congress? Let me bring in my panel, Greg Carr, Chair of the Department of Afro-American Studies at Howard University. Thank the Lord, a fellow Republican, Liz Copeland, founder and president of the Urban Conservative Project, and a former prosecutor in my DOJ, Spencer Beauregard Overton, president of the Joint Center for Political and Economic Studies.
That impression sucks. I just want you to know. It's horrible.
Right,
it's a horrible
Sessions
impression. I could barely understand the...
Yeah, that sounds just like Beauregard talking to all you black people on the committee yesterday, answering questions that I had no answers for.
That's right. That's right. No, that's him. And very proud with that gleam in his eye and that smirk. Jefferson Beauregard Sessions is a liar. Either that or he has dementia. He was there for several hours, and they pushed him, man. When you see Sheila Jackson Lee asking about that, how the hell your response gonna be, oh, I'm not familiar with that report? When was it issued? She said August 2017. This man is not going to give up. This is his dream job.
Yep.
No, he's not going to give up.
His job, his job, Liz, is to deny advancements for black people.
That's right.
That's where he stands. Coretta Scott King nailed it when she opposed his nomination to the federal bench. When you look at what he did when it came to the consent decree in Baltimore, when it came to the consent decree in Chicago, when he told those cops we're gonna pull back because y'all just demoralized because we putting too much pressure on y'all. But then he goes in front of the black law enforcement group and says we're gonna enforce the laws. That's the fact of the matter. The Civil Rights Division under the Department of Justice is an absolute joke. He does not care about voter suppression. They have flipped on the issue of voter ID in the Texas case, even though they lost 5 times in Texas, spent some $3 million. They will do nothing about voter suppression in North Carolina. They will do nothing about these illegal actions by the Republicans there when it comes to the judicial branch in North Carolina. This Justice Department wants to be a throwback to when we were picking cotton.
That's right.
What?
Yeah.
You're saying that Sessions wants the United States to return to slavery era law enforcement practice?
What I am saying is this here: when you have a Department of Justice that refuses to deal with the issue of voter ID. In fact, yesterday he was asked about the whole issue of discriminatory voter ID laws. He said the Supreme Court ruled that is a lie. The Supreme Court ruled one state's voter ID. But the Supreme Court has not ruled that voter ID across the board is fair. That was a lie from Jeff Beauregard Sessions. They have flipped from the Obama administration when it came to the voter ID. They are being discriminatory in Texas. They also have said nothing about North Carolina. That you've seen them take no action of substance when it comes to the various cases happening with the police departments. There is nothing that this Department of Justice has done that can make anybody black say they care about the rights of African Americans. Yes, I am saying this DOJ is a throwback. Yes, I am saying they want to go back to the days of Alabama, the 1960s. Yes, I am saying they want to deny rights to African Americans. They will not stand up for black people. And the fact that he has no African American on his senior staff, and this is also an issue because Donald Trump does not want to see black folks in his administration. He wants to appoint namely white men to the federal bench. Even George W. Bush had the guts to have Larry Thompson as the #2 official in the Department of Justice. So absolutely, this is a throwback administration.
All right, I hear what you're saying. I think that's mostly hyperbole, but I understand your concern.
Tell me what I said that was factually incorrect.
Right. The part where you said the Department of Justice does not want to stand up for any black folks, and consequently, they want to return us to slavery-era law enforcement. That is hyperbole.
Please show me the evidence where this DOJ is standing up for black folks. Show me.
We can say that they don't have a lot of
Show me the evidence.
You got 96 U.S. attorneys. They fulfilled what? They filled 42 of them, 43. They've got a longer road to go. They haven't demonstrated a lot of diversity. I'm not arguing that point. What I'm saying, they are not. What to say that this Department of Justice is making an effort to harm black people is a disservice to your viewers. They do a lot wrong, but you can't say
Spencer?
Talk about people being able to vote and cast a ballot. We've got several decisions in Texas where they've said, hey, this is discriminatory. We look at this whole...
5 times they've lost in Texas. Right. 5 times. Federal judges have ruled it is discriminatory against African Americans. Spencer, where does this DOJ fall?
Well, they are for the Texas ID, which has been ruled discriminatory by federal judges.
600,000 people of color will be denied the right to vote as a result of this. This DOJ is siding with Texas against black folks and Hispanics. Spencer, next.
Cops, in terms of this notion of Obama administration did a great job in terms of working with police force to work with the community. This DOJ has
worked with the police force as well. To your point of the consent
Answer yes or no. Did Jeff Sessions, without reading the consent decree in Baltimore, did he want to cancel the consent decree? Yes or no?
That is not a harm to black people because in Baltimore, I'm from Baltimore City. Don't tell me about the consent decree in Baltimore City.
When the mayor,
they are there.
No, Liz. Nice try. The mayor and the police chief opposed the Department of Justice, and the federal judge said, no, you cannot pull it back.
Wait a minute. Are you saying that because the mayor and the police department said we don't want the Department of Justice consent decree, we're already going to...
No, you're wrong.
What are you saying?
No, the mayor and the police chief said we want to move forward with it. Jeff Sessions wanted to remove the consent decree. Jeff Sessions wanted to remove the consent decree in Chicago, where the Attorney General Lisa Madigan is suing, saying, no, we want a federal judge.
The mayor didn't want to be in it, but in Baltimore City, they're already working together.
Liz, you're not following me. It was a federal judge who told Jeff Sessions, you will not pull out of the consent decree. One of the first actions when he became AG was to pull that consent decree off the table because he told a conference of state's attorney generals, we're going to pull back these consent decrees because it's hurting the morale of police officers. Is that fact or fiction?
That is fact, but in Baltimore City, the police department and the mayor were already working on some of the issues that were presented.
Liz, they were working. No, I'm not, Liz. They were working on those issues, but it is established fact that the Department of Justice under Jeff Sessions want to remove the Baltimore consent decree, and a federal judge said, no, you will not.
That's true.
That's what I just said.
So my point is that is not harming black people in Baltimore City. It is not harming black people in Baltimore City.
Had Jeff Sessions pulled it back, it would have harmed black people.
How so? They were already working together. The police department and the community were already working together. It's not harming black people in Baltimore City.
Show me evidence. Give me an example where this Department of Justice is standing up for black people.
I don't have to give you evidence that they're standing up for people. You have to give me evidence they're harming black people.
I have.
How?
Oh my God.
You have not given me evidence that harming black people. You've gotten your own opinion of it that you're predicting it's going to cause harm. There has been no harm to black people. Give me the harm. Show me the harm.
Let me just say this. Mass incarceration. significant harm in terms of black people, did not make our streets safer.
And that was that did not come from Jeff Sessions. That did not come from Jeff Sessions. That came from black and white Democrats.
1 second, Liz. Well, now 1 second, Liz. Which attorney general, once Trump was sworn in, said we are going to bring private prisons back in the federal system?
That's right.
I'll wait.
That's
What? What did,
No, he said that.
I know that he said that. I know that he said that.
And
but tell me how the privatization, which lowers costs, is an immediate harm to black
the
folks.
Federal Inspector General. Hold on, nice try, Liz. The Federal Inspector General said that the federal prison system was doing a much better job with inmates than the private prisons.
That's right.
That is established fact.
That's right. Liz, all you gotta do is listen.
You made a statement that is extremely vague. They're doing a better,
Vague?
they're doing a better job.
Don't do it.
What does that mean?
Don't
a
do it.
better job? They're doing a better job.
I hit you with fact, you go vague.
No,
I hit you with fact, you say, well, that's opinion. It's established fact. You okay? So you say you want one? Is the Texas voter ID law discriminatory against African Americans and Latinos? Yes or no?
Oh, I can't argue on that one. That was actually accurate.
But there are many.
That one is accurate.
All you have to do is watch the same
I'm not going to argue on that one. That was right. Voter ID laws are discriminatory. I'm not going to fight that one.
The clips we saw this morning confirming. This isn't even about protecting police. He's always talking about law and order.
I got 20 seconds. Go.
We've got a nominee, a judicial nominee, hasn't tried a case, filed a motion, etc.
Oh, stop
right?
it. Stop
okay,
it.
hold on.
I have a state attorney in Baltimore that never tried a criminal case.
ABA said unqualified.
Okay.
But we can't find any black qualified people to be federal judges.
I'm not certain that that's been the statement. You got a lot more nominations off the bat. They got a lot more opportunities to put U.S. attorneys in there that are
Y'all, I'm just, you know what? First of all, I need some water because I done hit too many facts out here that are just laid out. The Department of Justice. Now, Liz, during the break, you can take some of your sparkling water down there, because you need a serious swig. You might want to get her a liter, because right now she thirsty. She thirsty
for knowledge?
when it comes. You got knowledge.
I'm waiting for
You've been dropped knowledge, but I'm gonna tell you right now, real simple. Bottom line is this DOJ don't give a damn about black folks, and the facts don't lie.
Weekdays on TV One.
I will never lie to you.
Oh my God.
Roland Martin.
He doesn't want to talk to us. He wants to ignore us.
Uncensored.
Hell no. That ain't gonna cut it, boo.
Unapologetic.
No, that is fundamentally false. You are wrong.
Unfiltered.
He wants an America where we all look alike. He ain't talking about black people.
Unrelenting.
You better go work out, because you got a fight on your hands.
NewsOne Now with Roland Martin. Weekdays at 7 a.m. on TV One.